Hello, everybody. My name is Chilka. I'm the physician assistant from AlixPartners of New Jersey. A little bit about our company. We are based out of the Carolinas. We're a nationwide company, and I work in one of the northern hubs in Teaneck, New Jersey, the main hub. We also have an office in Wayne as well, and we have a sister hub in South Jersey in Ocean County. So today I was invited to talk about a little about oral immunotherapy. Does anybody know anything about it here?
Well, I think I might. So.
Okay. So this presentation is going to be super informal. Please stop me for any questions. I'll try to go over everything I can and answer all questions that I can answer. So let's start with just why food allergy prevalence is so high now compared to back when we were younger, we were kids, our parents were kids. It really just comes down to changes in everybody's microbiome, so overuse of antibiotics, the fact that, our generation now is more into precaution and putting kids in bubbles and, they can't go touch dirt, they can't be out playing outside. All these other diets are coming out, organic, gluten-free. Things are being eliminated from kids' diets that aren't necessarily required or necessary. So that's why all these allergies are coming about, where back in our day, we might have been having allergic reactions where our parents were like, oh, it's fine, you're just itchy, just keep eating it. So they were basically doing OIT without them even knowing that that's what they were doing. I even have patients now that come in, whether they're referred or not, saying that they haven't started any foods on their 4-month-old, but they want to get allergy tested just in case, because they don't want to deal with allergic reaction. In those cases, we tell them, the only way to tell if you have a food reaction is to give the food. And if we do testing, which I'll go over a little bit, there's all the chance of false positive testing, which can eliminate things from the diet unnecessarily. All right, so let's talk a little bit about food allergies versus intolerances. So people come in, I have this, and I just feel kind of funny. I want to get tested to this whole panel. My first question is, when did you eat the food? When did the reaction happen? And does it happen every time you eat that food? There's a difference between allergies versus intolerances. With food allergies, it's going to happen quick and go away quickly. So you're going to eat something, you're going to have a reaction within 15, 20 minutes. It's going to go away with Benadryl by itself or with an EpiPen in really drastic cases. And it will happen every time you eat that food. So if somebody comes in and saying, I think I have an allergy to dairy, I'm going to say, okay, well, do you drink milk? No, I have a reaction. Do you eat yogurt? Yes. Well, then it's not an allergy because it wouldn't matter how it's prepared. Any cow milk protein would cause a problem and a reaction. Intolerances, it's more about the quantity that you're ingesting versus the quality of it. So, lactose intolerances, you can have a certain amount of dairy, but then you hit that one extra slice of pizza and you feel uncomfortable the rest of the night. So there's a very, specific way we kind of look at which direction we're going to go and then what kind of testing we're going to do. So let's talk a little bit about testing and diagnosis. Like I mentioned before, as allergists, we try not to do broad spectrum panels when we do any type of testing, especially for kids, because we do get a lot of false positives. I have no food allergies. If I tested myself, I would probably light up my Christmas tree as well. We also don't test for anything that the child or person is already eating. So if you tell me you're already eating this food, I'm not going to test you for that because whatever shows up on that test is not going to change what I tell you to do as far as your diet goes. Because of false positives, you can get a lot of unnecessary avoidance. As we avoid these foods, especially in young kids, it can cause a sensitivity to develop and then eventually cause the allergy to be permanent. There's also comorbidities and atopic triads where we do look into that as a potential up risk of having allergies. So kids that show up with eczema, asthma, they're more prone to have food allergies along with it, seasonal allergies. We did also recently, I recently learned that kids that have eczema is a skin condition where your skin is just broken down, where moisture just doesn't help. So when kids are exposed either by airborne or contact to certain foods, and they have that reaction to the skin, if they're not exposed within a short period of time systemically, they have more of a risk of developing that allergy as well. So kids that react to a little bit of peanut butter on their skin and they go get tested, they test that positive, pediatrician says avoid everything nuts, that can potentially cause harm than good. We want to get people in as soon as possible to get tested, especially kids that have eczema. So what are our options? There's avoidance, there's open office challenges, there's oral immunotherapy, and then down the line I'll talk about the patches and pills that everybody's starting to hear about. So with avoidance, these kind of therapies aren't for everybody. It is a commitment for everybody involved, including the child, the parents, the family, friends. And there's a lot of social anxiety around it all because, ultimately nobody wants to use an EpiPen on their child especially. So avoidance might be the best plan for you. However, it has to be strict avoidance. So it's always, the anxiety about going out, eating out, going to friends' houses, especially dealing with people that don't know about allergies and don't know how to handle allergies. It's always harder on them as well as the family itself. Open office challenges, we do a lot of. I've actually seen an upkick in my challenges in the past few months. And basically what we do with the open office challenges is we do all the testing, do the skin testing, we do the blood work. If we see those numbers come back low or negative, and we know that there's been a history of either them eating this product or they were eating it, they stopped because of whatever testing, they've never had exposure at all, then we offer the open office challenge. And what we do there is I give them small amounts, measured amounts of whatever the allergen is over a period of time in the office. And if they pass, they pass, and they can put it into a diet ad lib. So they don't have to do it every single day. They just kind of put it into diet like you and I would. And we have a good pass ratio of failures because we're only doing it when we know that the chance of a reaction is low. And most likely we're dealing with a false positive as a result. So oral immunotherapy is, for short, OIT, is how I refer to it going forward. It's basically based on what immunotherapy schedule is for allergy shots for environmentals. So we know that, giving small amounts of something into the system converts that immune system over and desensitizes. So we can't call it a cure, we're calling it desensitization. And basically that's what it is. It's over a period of time in small measured amounts. It's a strict protocol that also kind of is personalized to each individual. So I'm on the phone with all my kids constantly with families, changing up the protocol here and there based on what's going on. So it's very individualized as well. And then patches and pills, everybody's kind of started hearing about, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So desensitization of foods, again, it's not a cure per se yet. It's the best way to get to a cure, though, at this time with what options we do have. So for my peanut kids, for example, we start off with a microgram dilution. So I'm breaking it down like hundreds million of times. So, I'm taking the powder, I'm diluting the water, taking that, diluting the water again, taking that, diluting the water again. So it's at a microgram level from when we start. On day one, we do raise it up to a milligram level that they're going to go home with. And then this takes about 10 months on average, depending on how the child is doing. And what they're doing is they're dosing every day at home as well, and they're coming back into the office every 2 to 3 weeks for an up-dose visit, where I increase their dose to a little bit higher. With peanuts and some of the tree nuts, we go from solution to capsules, where we open it up in the pudding or semi-solid, which is important for later when we talk about the pills. And then eventually they go to the actual nut itself. When they get to the nuts, there's different options for palatability.
Yes. Why peanuts and tree nuts? Why is that the allergy? What is it about that?
I'm not sure. And it all goes back to just, the changes in the microbiome, and it's more prevalent out there. So this sesame is also rising right now as well because there's been a lot of products, and a lot of kids are coming back allergies to that. But peanut and tree nuts has been the most highest food that has that social stigma and anxiety around it. Because we don't really care about milk allergy or wheat allergy as much as we do with peanuts and peanuts because it's there's more severe reactions to it. So the time, again, around 10 months or so, depending on the family and when they come in, how the patient's doing. So subsequent failures, I have over, in my office alone, I have over almost 300 kids that have been doing it in the last 3 years. We've graduated over 150, almost 200 kids that are now successfully eating their previously allergenic food. And all these kids were anaphylactic, so their numbers have been over 100. They've been in the 50s. They've had, anaphylactic kids licking a lollipop that had some type of dairy in it, or, they just were touched by a peanut and they had reactions. And now they're free eating whatever they want with peanut, or I do egg wheats, all that stuff. The failures that we have had have been more so to do with the social anxiety. So we're taking these kids, mostly in the teenage years as well, is the group that's really been the stress, have had the anxiety and really, had a hard time because they've been told their whole life that you eat this, you're going to die by everybody around them, right? So here they are in my office, and I'm like, no, eat this food that could potentially kill you. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. So, those have been the failures for the most part, where it just became too much mentally for the patient to handle, for the families to handle. They'll call me crying, saying, it's taking 2-3 hours every morning for them to even take the bite. And it just becomes a whole lot of a process. So we've had some people stop, which is completely fine. And again, as they get older and they kind of realize what's going on, they're all more than welcome to come back and start. So, and we do always tailor it. So even some of our maintenance kids that have graduated, we have an end goal that we have in place. However, we've modified that a lot, because if I know the kids don't like the peanut or peanut products, which a lot of them don't, they hate what they're supposed to be taking every single day for 3 to 5 years. There's options like peanut M&Ms and PB2 powders and different types of nut milks that are out now. So we try to make it as easy as possible to keep it on maintenance, because you go through all this for 10 to 12 months, and then all of a sudden they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, they stop. So we have had some people stop in maintenance. And again, it's just because they didn't call, and we would have adjusted it. We would have said, go down to pure minimum, to some other conversions and other options. So it's just, the fight between the parent and the child that kind of takes over everything. And then again, social anxiety, I've said it a couple of times, it is social anxiety. It affects everybody around you. So the child, the parent, the grandparents, immediate family, extended family, friends, neighbors, teachers, everybody around you gets affected by this one little label, and it's a lot. And again, there's even allergists now that are saying, don't do this, it's not FDA approved, there's not enough research, you're going to harm your child. So it's hard to fight that battle on our end and then have the anxiety of the family and kids already in place when they're coming in. So, I love that our company is very open, and we want to have a communication. So we meet with our kids multiple times before we even say, okay, this is your day one visit. We want everybody to be on board and understand what they're about to start doing. So patches and pills, you'll be hearing a lot more about this. It is big pharma backed, which is why you'll be hearing more about it. The pills, I believe, I think the FDA sat in a meeting just this week to approve the pills that are coming out by AMU. And basically it's the same kind of concept. It is small amounts in pill form. However, as you listen to what they're saying just to swallow the pill. In our case, we have our patients open up the tablets and capsules when we do that segment, because we want the exposure to happen from beginning to end. We don't want to just open up in the belly and then potentially have an adverse reaction. We also know that the mucosal cells in the skin are the last to really accept what we're doing in the manipulation. So we want that constant exposure going all the way down the tract. At the end of the patches and the pills, from all the studies that are out right now, they're going towards more of a bite-proof versus a free eat. So bite-proof means the cross-contamination threat will be eliminated. You could have up to 1 to 2 grams of the food, which is about 1 peanut, 2 peanuts. But again, my bite-proof might be different from your bite-proof. So you're still going to have to carry your EpiPen. You're still not going to be able to go out to a restaurant to order like a pad thai and be completely fine. You know, you're still going to have to take the precautions that you are, but you don't have to worry about labels and things like that, which is a huge deal for a lot of families. Like when we get to that point halfway through the therapy and we let them know that, okay, you don't have to worry about labels anymore, it's a huge relief because it opens up so much for them as far as going to restaurants, having chocolate, things like that. Where in OIT, once you get to a certain point, the idea is that you can free eat and you can just go out over that pad thai and have, you know, peanut butter cups after for dessert and not have to worry about any reaction at all. The reason we do keep kids on this daily for 3 to 5 years is because we know it takes about that long for the desensitization to really stick. Once we get to that point, we do stop them for a couple of weeks, and then we challenge them that they would an office open challenge. And if they pass that, we know that, okay, you can have it once or twice a week instead of every single day, which, again, is huge. And they can, you know, just go out and eat whatever they want. So as maintenance, there is a certain amount they have to eat every day. And, again, we give them tons of conversions, you know, to pick from, so it's not just the same thing over and over again. But the biggest thing is getting rid of that anxiety. So it's, again, not a cure yet, but it's going in that direction. And we're lucky to have one of the leaders in all this, Dr. Wasserman, in our company, who started this in Texas, and he has over 1,000 kids. He's graduated tons of kids. And he, you know, all our protocols are basically based on his work. So we're lucky to have him part of our company. And it's all going great. And, you know, spreading the word is the way it's going to get out there. So.
Great. 3 to 5 years they're on this therapy. Mm-hmm. Is there any relationship if they would take antibiotics and, you know, flush it out? One has nothing to do with the other.
No. And it's, I mean, the good thing about this as well is that it is all natural. So it's all just food, you know, natural flour, natural nut, water, and Kool-Aid flavoring for the most part. So there's no other chemicals or, you know, anything else in the product. So it doesn't interfere with anything else that you're doing. So they're all medications or, you know, whatever they're doing as far as other chronic illnesses, you can continue doing that without any indication. There are some side effects that could happen that we do monitor for. You might hear like EOE, which is eosinophilic esophagitis. Reflux symptoms can happen as well. So all these things are minor hiccups that, for the most part, can be treated along the way. And then once they get to a certain point, everything just kind of stops. And I can't say, okay, well, everybody stops at this pill amount, and all side effects go away. It's really dependent on that person's immune system and, you know, how they're kind of adjusting to it all.
We have a family friend who, she's in her 20s, and she's been, definitely allergic to dairy. Mm-hmm. Hasn't been able to have anything or go out to, if they go on vacation, the mom has to always make a food. It's ongoing thing. And just recently she started this.
Oh, she did?
On her long hair. Yeah.
Nice.
So she starts with a very little bit, and she has to do it at the same time every day. It's just, like all these things, but even for a girl in her 20s, is now committed to making it work. But like you go out the night before and you come home really late, and it's like at 6 a.m. you've got to, you know.
So everybody's protocols are different.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to anybody else's protocols. With our protocols, we want people to keep it around the same time, more because we want it to become part of the routine so you don't forget. So it doesn't have to be exactly at 6 a.m. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly on this day.
Well, I know she doesn't always do it.
Right. So we kind of give time frames, like, you know, make sure it's within a couple hours of this. If you're going to switch doses from morning to night for whatever reason, you have to go to a party or go out, make sure it's about 12 hours apart or so. The two biggest things that we do enforce and reiterate every single visit is making sure they take the doses with food, and also the rest period. So 1 hour before, 2 hours after for the rest period. And the reason for that is anytime your heart rate goes up, circulation kicks up, everything gets pushed quicker, and we don't want that to happen. So
she also had a problem a couple of times, but it did seem to think it was because she was fighting a cold or getting sick. So her immune system was fighting that rather than working with the, you know, her dosing that kind of threw everything off and she had a reaction.
Yeah. So
and then that's scary if you're now taking this.
It is.
Oh, wow, this is great. in a small amount.
And I give out handouts to all my new patients, and even patients that haven't gotten the handout, explaining, okay, if you have low-grade fevers or strep throat, antibiotics, as long as the child's eating and otherwise fine, they can continue with their dose. If any fevers are 1 or 3 or above, you're just not eating, you're fatigued, there's a lot going on, we would cut down the dose and adjust it. Or even if we skip that one day, we would then adjust it after that. So, there's a lot of things. It sounds scary when you're like, this protocol, you got to do this every day, and this and that. Like, we wanted to work with your lifestyle, not be an additional stress for it. So, there's a lot of leeway around the protocol. And again, I work individually with every single family on a daily basis to, customize how it works. I mean, we have people that come in every 6 weeks instead of every 2 weeks. So as long as they're taking their dose, at that point, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. Then you have somebody that are like, well, we have to get it done before this time because they're going to college, which, again, we work with them on that. And, of course, we're not going to force them or push them so hard that they create reactions. I like to have easy days in the office. Not so much running around with EpiPens every day. So.
How old is too old to start?
There's no age. I think my youngest was 10 months that I started, and the oldest has been 28 or 30. So it's tough for we either get the college kids before they go to college, or we end up getting them after college because they have to be in town or able to get to us at least every 2 to 3 weeks. So, but yeah, we had a graduate come back. He was 26, I think. Same thing, milk. He had been avoiding it the whole time. And the last graduation day, he was like, I can't believe I just drank 8 ounces of milk. And I can go and have.
We're all amazed.
Everything. Yeah. It's absolutely life-changing.
Actually, my daughters are probably fine. I'm 38 years old, allergic to nuts. And as a kid, I was allergic to chocolate and fish, but I don't eat any of them. I'm still allergic to nuts. I've confirmed.
Okay.
But I bet you I could eat chocolate or shellfish.
Yeah.
But there's a mental barrier. Like I said, I've gotten this far.
The social anxiety, right? Yeah, so I will mention there is also another type of allergic reaction that some people have, and they do say, oh, I'm allergic to this, and it's called oral allergy syndrome, and that's more if you have pollen allergies, you can have these contact reactions to fresh produce, including nuts. So if they're raw and not roasted nuts, you can get itchy lips, throat, tongue, mouth, all facial, up like above the neck symptoms. You can have reactions to like apples, peaches, pears, plums, watermelons. But if you have apple pie, you're completely fine. If you have roasted nuts, you're completely fine. If you have carrots in a soup, you're completely fine. And that's more of a contact reaction, not so much a food allergy. So we don't even give out EpiPen for that. The way to really manage that is to make sure everything's kind of heated or steamed, or get on allergy shots for the seasonal allergies, and that would eliminate that.
So it's just the pollen on the fruit skin?
Yeah. And that's tree or ground grown. And then the reason we use roasted products for the OIT is because the more roasted the product is, the more allergenic it is as well. So all like the shells from Mexico, we don't use it. We use actual roasted products, but the more roasted, the more allergenic. And we use egg white or eggs because egg white is the most allergenic out of the yolk and the white. That's milk. You can give it a go?
No. I should do fish. That's the one I shellfish. Because it looks fun to eat when you like the bowl of mussels. That looks fun. I want to try that, but it's a mental barrier.
You should come in to get tested. You can probably challenge you out.
I like as a kid growing up doing all these tests. I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah.
I know it's been 30 years, but yeah.
Yeah,
my poor parents tried everything. We did like homeopathic and this and that, goat milk and everything, all these different things.
No, the thing is that technology is changing, medicine is changing. We do have more component testing that breaks down the different risks with anaphylactic reactions. So with peanut, it has six different fingers where we test. And we know that component number 2 and 6 and some of the other ones can show you a risk of higher anaphylactic reactions. versus just the number 8, which would show more oral allergy syndrome. So in those cases, if numbers even, 90 or something of the peanuts, but that everything else is negative except for the number 8, we might be inclined to need to challenge that out, like peanut butter or something roasted, because we know that it's more of an oral allergy syndrome than a natural antibiotic reaction. So there is better guidance as far as where we go and what testing and stuff we do based on all these, orders that we can.
Can I ask a question? I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay, hi. Thank you. So I think you had mentioned that you're doing OIT with kids as young as 10 months. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just curious. So, I mean, obviously with a baby, they're less able to communicate, and they also, a lot of, like, things that are typical for a baby are also in older kids, maybe signs of anaphylaxis, right? So like a runny nose and spitting up and things like that. And infants may be less likely to be able to articulate, like if their throat is itchy, and there are more mild symptoms. So I'm just curious, if you're doing OIT with babies who can't speak, sort of like how do you monitor like any adverse reactions that might be developing?
So we're definitely more precautious with them because they're not verbal to us. The one patient that we did have, the parents were very diligent in watching her for the full 2 hours afterwards. And basically what we tell patients, even with the ones that come in for challenges, is if the baby is playful and active and, has no rashes, we just keep watching and monitoring. If at any point the baby develops any type of rash, stops being so energetic, stops communicating the way that whatever they're communicating, how they're communicating, at that point we're always going to jump more towards EpiPen rather than watching and waiting and Benadryl like we may do for an older child. We also do know that because the immune systems are better as they're younger, the earlier that this is done, the more receptive the immune system is without as many problems.
Interesting. And so, like, there is a benefit in doing it earlier rather than waiting to see if they grow out of it?
Absolutely, yeah. And, again, it all goes back down to the testing, if they've had it, if they've had, like, a severe reaction, what are the other comorbidities around it. But we definitely do recommend doing it earlier than later because, again, that social anxiety starts playing into effect as soon as they hit, like, 5 years old, where my 10-month-old, I give her peanut butter and she's living her best life. So
right. And if you, I think you had mentioned that you're going, you might talk about the VIA skin patch, but I know that from what I understand, there have been fewer adverse reactions to the patch, and that might be in the pipeline sooner than later. Would you still recommend moving forward with the OIT with an infant versus waiting to possibly have that option?
So like I said, every program is different. So it really depends on, if you can come into the updose visits, the scheduling of it all. It's kind of what your end goal is with the 2 programs. So like I said, with the patches, it's more going to give you that bite-proof, not necessarily looking at the labels anymore, not being as cautious, where with OIT, eventually they'll be able to eat kind of whatever amount they want without any problem. So it's really about what your end goal is. If you're more concerned about just getting rid of the labels, not being as cautious and not having to worry about cross-contamination, and it's easier just to get the patch, then of course we're going to, that's going to be the best option. If you can commit to the protocol, if you can, stick it in there for 10 to 12 months, and you want past the labels and cross-contamination, then OIT is still going to be a better option. And we go over all the options with our patients, knowing that, looking at the numbers and looking at the history and the skin testing as far as what the likelihood is of them outgrowing it versus it getting, worse. So it really depends. And with this family in particular, with a 10-month-old, I did say, her numbers are low enough that she could potentially outgrow it in the next 6 months. We can repeat the blood work. But the mom and the dad were both adamant about just getting this over and done with, so they don't have to worry about having the label before she started going to school.
Right. Would some people do the patch and then do OIT later to sort of like, minimize anxiety to an extent and then move on to maybe a treatment that might be a little bit more risky?
I'm sure, and in those cases, obviously we don't have any patients like that now. In those cases, we may have those patch kids, remove the patch for a few weeks, come in, so get some testing done. Depending on how the numbers are, we could potentially challenge them at that point and see, what happened, or based on the numbers, just say, it's not bringing down your numbers well enough at this point. OIT is still an option. What would you like to do?
Right.
So. We definitely.
Are you doing the patch at this point?
We're not, no.
You're not? Okay.
No. We did have a patient who, based on the numbers, he had passed all of his tree nut challenges, and peanut was the last one. Based on his numbers, it was low to no risk of it having a reaction, but he did react at 1 teaspoon of peanut butter in the challenge. So what we did, we cut him down to, I think I started him on 0.05 grams of an actual peanut, and did the rest of the OIT that way. So he skipped all of the solution, he skipped all the capsules, he started on the actual peanut, but at a lower dose than what he reacted in the challenge.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking about infants, 5, 13-month-old, and I know when it was like maybe 7 or 8 months and you were with solid, that giving him peanut butter, we just kept saying, no, wait, we'll keep waiting. And then we gave it to him and he was fine.
Yeah.
But the big question is there any research or, best practices with an infant to kind of hopefully mitigate getting to the allergy?
So now with all the new studies that have come out, before we were told to hold off on the 5 or 6 allergenic foods until they're much older, now the recommendation is actually introduce it by as soon as 4 months. Because the quicker you introduce it into the system, the less chance of sensitization to those foods, especially the allergenic foods. So, even when my daughter was, with my son, he's 6 now, I actually waited with him for like 6 or 7 months. With my daughter, I gave her a lick of peanut butter when she was 4 months old. So we definitely recommend introducing these foods. Again, any new food is going to be one at a time, a couple of days apart. If the kid kind of refuses it doesn't make the face with it, it's not a sign that it's allergenic to them. It just means that they're not used to the texture. So trying it a couple times, just introducing it along with every other food is the best way to kind of mitigate the chance of allergen.
What are the main foods, the allergenic foods?
So the biggest allergenic foods in kids is peanut, milk, eggs, wheat, and
Shellfish.
Yeah. Soy. Shellfish is kind of extended, but soy. So when they go in to get tested, that's going to be the pediatric panel. So we even have kids that come in and the parents are like, oh, they were positive to all these foods. I'm like, let me guess, these 5. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, let's see what's going on. And most of the time they come in, they're like, well, he was eating eggs fine, and now he's positive, and we're told to stop. So that could be one of just, depending on how long it took them to come to an allergy office, we tell them to just keep giving it to them because we don't want that to become a sensitivity.
I'm
on a lot of the soy milk now. And again, it all goes back to the parents and their dietary lifestyle as well. So a lot of parents don't have dairy in the house anymore, so they're all into the almond milk and soy milk and things like that. So in general, the family's not exposed to dairy as much as it should be. And again, now there's more studies coming out that humans don't even need to drink milk, which is fine. Different topic, different story.
Yeah.
But, having the freedom to eat the cheese and the yogurts, having that exposure early is what's going to be most beneficial. And again, we don't want just, if your child is covered head to toe in eczema and has all these other problems, we want you to be cautious and want you to come in and get, seen by a doctor, because those are things that can increase your risk of allergies. Family history plays a part, but it's not always, 100% that the kid's going to come out with allergies as well. So there's no research that's concurrent with, if you eat nuts while you're pregnant and breastfeed, if that causes any problems, or if you're eating nuts and dairy during pregnancy, that's causing problems. It's all kind of there. and coincidences that it does happen.
Are you able to treat multiple allergies at the same time? So if the child has dairy and nuts that they can't have?
So we haven't mixed dairy or egg with a nut. The ones that we do combine are tree nuts. So we'll combine up to 3 to 4 tree nuts at a time because they're all in the kind of same family.
Right.
We try to keep milk and eggs separate because we do see there's more issues that come about from that, with whether it's lactose intolerance or a little bit of reflux here and there. Same thing with the nuts. So we try to keep different food groups separate, but the tree nuts we know we can combine because there's similar proteins in all of them. So even with kids that have cashew and pistachio allergies and walnut and pecan allergies, we would only typically do OIT for walnuts and cashews because once they clear that, they'll clear the pistachio and the pecan. So there's no need to do 6, 7 different nuts because it becomes a meal at the end of the day. By the time they get to the end, they're just having nuts for dinner all the time, and it becomes a lot. So we want to keep it as simple, but also put in as much as we can. So a few people depending on the numbers and history, we have combined peanut and one tree nut together, and they're doing fine. So we try to keep it as separate as possible, just for sanity and lower the risk of reactions as well. Any other questions?
Are the treatments, are they expensive in the big scheme of things since they are not?
So it's not. So again, it depends on the doctor.
Yeah.
I know there's some doctors that do cash only. There's some physicians that, do cash only and don't put through insurance. We do put out through insurance, so we charge an admin fee, and then some insurances that don't cover it, we do have an initial fee, and then every other visit that is covered as an office visit under your plan. So if you have a deductible, then that's a payment or a copay, but other than that, it's nothing else out of pocket other than the initial first day visit with some insurances, and then the admin fee, just for all the supplies that we give you guys. And we, in my practice, I mix everything for you, so you're literally just going home and drawing it up in the syringe and dosing the child. You're not mixing anything, you're not, any of that stuff. The only time you really do your own is at the end when you get on the nuts, where we have you measure out the dose at that time on a scale that we recommend. So it's like I said, it seems intimidating and a lot, but we want it to kind of blend into your lifestyle and be easy as you go on this journey. All right. Thank you so much for having me. The information for my practice is on the slide. I also forgot to put on there, if anybody else is interested in getting more information, OIT101.org is a website that has a lot of information. There's also a lot of Facebook groups, OIT 101, that a lot of patients that want to get into it are a part of. And because it is working so well for most families, everybody's excited to share their journey and their story with you. So, I have tons of parents that are like, if you need anybody to, convince them that it's working, I'll be your spokesperson. Not you, but so it's a helpful community, and it's an exciting community, and it's amazing to be a part of. And and then there's an NBC link as well that we were featured on talking about OIT. I will touch base on the study a little bit that was mentioned out by the doctor at Mount Sinai. There was a meta-analysis that came out recently. Basically, the endpoint conclusion was that people that do OIT are a higher risk of anaphylactic reaction. Well, obviously, because we're giving them what they're allergic to. So it's kind of saying, my cousin has a higher risk of going and getting a jellyfish sting because they're in the ocean more than I am. But in this case, it's a controlled environment. We know why you're getting the reaction and what might have caused that reaction. And the end point where you are is the benefit's way better than the risk leading up to it, versus going out into the world and not knowing when you're going to have that reaction, and always being worried and having that Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.